think you know the truth, any other conversation other than about the truth is foolishness and a waste of time. I was glad Lana was there to talk with me and to keep me occupied. We would talk about our experiences and compare notes on how our groups operated and how we were manipulated. We were like two strangers in the same raft of loneliness on a sea of uncertainty, not knowing what our futures would hold. Soon Lana would leave, and the world would be mine to face. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and then my parents were supposed to come to Unbound for what was called family integration. Faceit came back with another client, though, and asked me if I would stay another week to help the new client become acclimated. This man had also been part of the way. After the 3rd week, my parents came out. It was the first time I had seen Mom and Dad since the deprogramming. The weekend was to help make sense for all of us what had happened to me, making communication contracts that would help us when I went home to live. They arrived at the house Friday evening. The staff had arranged for their hotel room. Saturday, we began the process of family integration. The day was taken up with different exercises to help us become reacquainted. We were to go home Sunday afternoon. We finished up on Sunday morning, and we made our way to the airport. It would not be my last time at Unbound, but that's another story. Soon we were home, somewhere I had not called such for many years. Once home, I told my parents I needed to go down to Dayton to retrieve my things. I called my roommate while I was at Unbound to make sure nothing had been touched. He said the only people who had gone through my things were the police, so they could find some clue as to where I had gone. I told him not to let anyone take anything, and I would explain it all when I came to pick up my belongings. So my mom and I left to go down to Dayton to get my things. I told my roommate no one from the group was to know I was coming to retrieve my things. I then spent the next few hours explaining what I had found out from the group. He asked me if he could tape record what I said so he could have reference for the future. I warned him not to turn over the tapes to any of the Way leadership because he would never see them again. My concerns were well founded because a couple of weeks later, my roommate called me to tell me the leadership found out he had made these tapes and demanded he turn the tapes over to them so they could destroy the tapes. It was this which caused my former roommate to make the final decision to leave the Way. He had only wanted them to refute the things I had said about the group and their methods. All he received from them was fear and condemnation for asking honest questions, and finally they gave him the left foot of fellowship. I'd asked my dad if anyone from the Way had contacted him while I was gone. He told me the leader from Dayton, Al Weinberg, had called and told my dad that he was going to go straight to hell for what he had done to me. There was never any other communication after that incident, and it would be years before I would speak with anyone that was in the Way leadership. I was well aware of Way's teachings that if anyone was ever kidnapped and deprogrammed, the followers or the leadership would not come to your rescue. I was not surprised then that I had no other contact with them. I was just another tripped out grad to them and had been deceived and possessed by devil spirits. That's what they thought of me. The next few months was spent making sense out of my experience in sorting through the many years of teaching I had received while in the Way. I read everything I could get my hands on about manipulation and control. I also read about other groups, learning how they were able to manipulate and control their members. I was confounded by how prevalent they were in our society. I read 1984, An Animal Farm by George Orwell, and found that what he wrote was very similar to my experience. Some of my reading was about Chinese Communist Revolution and what the priests and professors and other intellectuals went through in the Chinese thought reform universities and prisons. I saw many similarities between the communist methods of manipulation and control and the ones used by cults in other abusive situations. The result of my studies made me realize that no one is immune from manipulation and that anyone could become ensnarled in a cult. A group or person can victimize anyone. Getting out of an abusive situation can be very difficult, as it was for me. And what about me? I spent the next few years helping others escape circumstances in which their families or they found themselves in. I found the more I assisted people and families escape the manipulations of different groups, the more each group looked the same. Those escapades are for another time. I close this part of the book by inviting the reader to read the rest with the prayer that the knowledge and understanding that you may receive will lead you to a deeper insight of which thousands of others like me have gone through in entering a cult or other abusive situations or recovering after coming out of one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That's the end of chapter 12. We have chapters 13, 14, and 15 to go. What I think I'm going to do is chapter 13 will be one in of itself, and that is Shopping for Paradise, which is an awesome chapter. The last three are very awesome. What happened is the book has been written for quite a while, at least the first 12 chapters. But the last 3 chapters, it took a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying, a lot of just getting down and dirty with the scriptures and with what I had gone through to try to come up with how to close this book out. And how I closed it out is to give you an overview of not only how cults work, but how to get out of them, how to get other people out of them, and the difference between dogma and doctrine. This is specifically for cults, for Christian cults that I'd like to talk with, and the other aberrations like the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, the white supremacists. I mean, you name all the aberrant groups that are out there, a number of them. So I said I was going to talk about another issue, and I'm going to. As of today, and you'll see this by what you're listening to, is 8/15/2017. In the recent weeks, people have been notified, the country has been notified that Kim Jong-un, I think that's how I say it, the leader in North Korea, that guy, has threatened, badgered, and in some cases promised that he's going to fire on the United States. Now he's talked about firing on Guam. Now he's talking about firing close to Guam with his missiles. And our president has taken a very firm stance that basically, no, this isn't going to happen and we're not going to tolerate it, which we should. So the big deal is that, number one, that the president's words are too verbose, too loud, too threatening, too demanding. To which I say this: people do not understand the mind frame of a cult leader. They do not understand the mind frame of a despot, of a terrorist, the leader of a terrorist organization. Other countries like Iran would be very specific. Russia. The Russia, as far as the mind control and the thought reform is, they have much lessened. They're still, what I want to say, you've still got a whole generation of people there that are, what do I want to say, still indoctrinated, I guess would be the best thing, under the communist rule. And then, of course, you have China as well. Now, one of the things that I need to say is that thought reform, brainwashing is real. Look, there isn't over 1 billion crazy people in China. There isn't over, millions and millions of people in North Korea. I don't know how many people, millions of people they have, that are crazy in North Korea. Got one crazy one that we're worried about. So, when we look at that, there's some sense of detachment of reality when people talk about communism, when you talk about terrorism, when you're talking about abuse, the horrible things that are done in the name of religion or the name of in the name of politics. It's a travesty. The interesting thing, and this is just a side note, is that the most threatening thing to the communist countries, to any dictatorship that doesn't allow its people to think, is Christianity. Some people would say religion as a whole, and I would say yes, Chinese have no need nor love nor want a Muslim in their country, but Christians as well, and even more so, because it undercuts the very fabric of what the communist rule is like, and that's by fear. Here's the interesting thing, the difference between, and it just came up to me, the difference between the Muslim, the Christian view of China, the Chinese, or any type of, North Korea, Iran. So Iran has its radical Islamic terrorists that they support and stuff. This is a religion of hate. It was founded on hate. It was founded on deception. It was founded on lies. It wasn't founded by, come here, I'll love you. It's, if you don't get out of my way, I'll kill you. So that is a threat to China. However, those type of threats can, basically you can take the person out. Find them, kill them, destroy them. Even though they may think that they're a martyr, the communists can in some way justify the reason why they had to attack the Muslims and to kill them, because the Muslims basically are out to kill them, because it's jihad, it's them against the whole world, and the whole world should be Islamists. Well, Christianity thinks the same way. We think everyone should be a Christian. But we shouldn't, I'm going to say we should not, browbeat people and beat people up and kill people in order to have them convert to Christianity. Did that happen in the past? Absolutely. Can Christianity deny its sordid past and what happened? We can't. We can in no way justify what has been done in the name of Christianity.